in Colorado. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we have a guest speaker who is Diana Iguera. Um, I hope I did that right, Diana. At least it is better. Um, and Diana is the executive director and founder of the Rocky Mountain Welcome Center, which helps immigrant families and refugees integrate into Colorado's society and helps them with whatever they need. We're going to get to Diana in a minute. We've got a few things to cover first. The first thing I want to mention is today, the House of Representatives, the U.S. House of Representatives, passed the Laken-Riley Act. And what that does is allow immigration authorities to detain undocumented immigrants who are only charged, not convicted, but charged with burglary, theft, larceny, or even shoplifting. It's going to be considered in the Senate on Friday. They'll need 8 Democratic votes to pass it. So right now it's a little uncertain, but they already do have some bipartisan support. Under the current law, non-citizens convicted of 2 petty offenses are already subject to potential deportation. And the source for this is a New York Times article today called House Passes Bill to Deport Unauthorized Immigrants Charged with Minor Crimes by Karun Demirjian. But if you look up House Bill Laken, Laken, Riley, Riley Act in the New York Times, you can find the article.
I just put a link to the actual bill text.
And I apologize. I have bronchitis, so I'll try not to cough in you guys' face. So we'll get started with just a few things we'd like to talk about before Diana gets started. Now I have to share it. Okay. And I'm drawing a line. Okay. As we mentioned before, we were going to we're going to have a sustained campaign of action alerts. We have one prepared that will go out Wednesday or Thursday on economic issues. The reason it was delayed this week was because the Colorado legislature, their new list of members is not updated yet. So we want to be sure we get the current members of the Colorado legislature to send that to. We have prepared a JEDI plan of action for the state. We have state actions such as the action alerts that will be coming to you in the next few weeks. And then we have a letter that's going out to local chapters asking if you want to advocate on behalf of immigrants in your local community. And then we have some advocacy efforts that we're going to be asking national if we can advocate on the national level about federal immigration issues and detention centers. The JEDI plan of action will send you an email like we did recently updating you on our activities, and it'll have a link to the JEDI plan of action in it, so you can see what we've done so far. Shauna Tracy is a member of the Immigration Steering Committee, and she's going to talk about the importance of education. So I'll turn it over to Shauna right now.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. And again, thank you so much for caring about this really important issue of immigration. When it comes to the climate of immigration, one thing that has become very apparent is how many people are simply unaware of the potential crisis looming nationally, as well as in our own backyard here in Colorado. The threat of mass deportation, the media hype surrounding Operation Aurora, that might all seem like front page news to you, but many are really uninformed when it comes to the facts and the statistics. We get a lot of questions, and the biggest one I think is, what can I do? And that's a really valid question. And the two words we came up with were engage and educate. Right now, that is the most important thing. Civil discourse is a really important part of relaying the message. And while it can be scary and intimidating in these polarized times, we have some suggestions to maybe make it a little bit easier. So the first tip, truly start with people you are comfortable with. Starting a debate with a random person online rarely ends well. So have conversations online and in person with people you're comfortable with about facts and statistics. This can be powerful. Don't be afraid to comment on a post. Don't be afraid to post your own stuff on social media. Think about things that are difficult to refute, things that you are comfortable discussing. Tell friends and family what you're passionate about, what you're working on. A lot of them will want to know more and help, and some will not. And honestly, that's okay too. The important piece is sharing the message. The second tip, keep the area of discourse less controversial. It's pretty much all controversial, but if you talk about economics, the impact that immigrants have on our economy, the positive impact, if you talk about the psychological impact on deportees, the prevalence of PTSD, of depression, of anxiety when families are separated, these are all things that are hard to refute. And especially if you have statistics to back them up, you're making a very knowledgeable post. At the last JEDI meeting, we gave you a bunch of bullet points, and I'm sure that resource will be available after this meeting as well. And then finally, follow those involved. Be a watchdog. Follow your local police department, follow the Aurora Police Department, follow your local government, all of these places on social media. Follow CIRC, which is the Colorado Immigrant Rights Coalition. Follow Rocky Mountain Welcome Center. Just stay up to date on this immigrant crisis. So just to kind of close, just remember these two words, guys, when you think, what can I do? You can educate and you can engage. By sharing facts about the threats that our new neighbors face, we can, as individuals, have a powerful impact. And remember, knowledge is power. Kathy?
Thank you, Shauna. So now we'll get to the main event today. We have Diana Iguera, the executive director and founder of the Rocky Mountain Welcome Center. And the Rocky Mountain Welcome Center is a community organization that helps immigrants, all types of immigrants, refugees, asylum seekers, visa holders, temporary protective status people, get integrated into the Colorado community. So I'm gonna let Diana talk here.
Thank you, Kathy, for the introduction.
Diana, I think I asked you first to talk about why people. Do you want to talk about the Welcome Center first? That would probably be a good idea.
I can talk a little bit about the Welcome Center. So the Rocky Mountain Welcome Center, we started in 2017, so we're going up our 8th year. And we work with immigrants and refugees. We do not ask for people's status when they come in our doors. So we just help anybody who comes, and we try to help everybody. I feel that sometimes we are like the last resort of people. Sometimes they come and they have been bounced back from other organizations and they ended up with us. And we don't say no, we just try to help in anything we can. Even if we can't help the person, then we will try to find another organization who does. And we have very specific programming. One of the programs is to support families, and part of that is so we were doing TPS. We're right now doing Know Your Rights. A lot of the things that we're doing are gonna change with the new administration because we need to protect our people. So we're gonna be doing a lot of legal stuff so that at least people are informed of what is coming and how to protect themselves. We also have a little bit of money to do rental assistance, food assistance, and then we have programmings for long-term people that have been long-term here. So we have Youth Rule the World, that is for youth that have been in the country at least a year. And we talk about growing, being bicultural, and how difficult it is not being from here or from there, and how they can have those important conversations with the parents or families and their community. We have other youth programs. We have a soccer program where we have currently 80 kids, and it's doing social emotional activities through soccer. Diana, do you help with legal immigration lawyers? We do not. We don't have our own lawyers, but we work together with JAMLAC and with other organizations that do. So right now, for example, anybody who comes to us and tries to is asking for help for asylum, for example, we send them to the Asylum Center, the Colorado Asylum Center. And there are other organizations that have their own lawyers and do their own things. We just do educational. So right now we're doing Know Your Rights together with other organizations. We were doing temporary protection status for the Venezuelan population. And right now we are helping them with, if USCIS send them a letter for more evidence, we're helping them with that. But other than that, that's all the legal aspect that we do.
Thank you, Diana. And from now on, will people please put the questions in the chat, and we'll monitor them and ask them during the course of the proceeding. Diana, can you tell us a little bit about why you founded the Rocky Mountain Welcome Center and what your personal experience is with immigration?
Yeah, so I'm an immigrant myself. I'm from Venezuela. So a lot of compatriots coming right now. I came to do my master's degree at the University of Denver in 2005. And and even as an international student, there were a lot of things that nobody helped and nobody told me. So, for example, when I came, I didn't know that apartments were not furnished, and so I slept in the floor for the first 2 weeks. Or I didn't have a social security number, and you need social security to get a phone or to get electricity in the apartment, and things like that. So there was definitely a need of helping people, even international students, with legal paperwork. And there was a gap. So when I graduated, I started working for the Conflict Center and then for Spring Institute, and then you start to see the gaps, right? So there is a lot of help, but there are also a lot of gaps, and that make me decide to create a nonprofit that we will not reinvent the wheel, but work with other nonprofit organizations together, and then work on those gaps where we see that needs help. And that's how we started.
Yeah, I think that's really important, and that's something the league's trying to do, is not reinvent the wheel, but get information right now, especially about Know Your Rights, out to as many people as we can.
Absolutely.
Can you tell us a little bit about why people leave their home countries?
Well, it depends of which country you come from, right? So there are a lot of people coming from countries that are in war. And that is definitely, so a lot of those people come as refugees. And it's a big difference between an immigrant and a refugee. And legally is we define it legally. And the difference is because when you come as a refugee, and normally you come directly from a refugee camp where the U.S. picked you and vetted you, and then you come to the U.S., and then a resettlement agency is waiting for you and help you, and then you have access to Medicaid and a lot of other helps that a normal immigrant doesn't have. So that's a way of coming. Then another way of coming is people that are coming through the border. Then there are people that are asylum seekers. And when we say asylum seekers, it's because they are not granted asylum yet. They have 1 year from the day they come in to fill the paperwork for asylum and then to defend the asylum. And that doesn't give you automatic help of any source. So people, and I say this because a lot of people will say, well, all these immigrants are taking or benefits and are using it. It's not true. It's not true. They do not have whatsoever. Not, they don't have access to any help, anything. So while they are asylum seeker, once you put the petition for asylum, and you have 150 days where you can, after 150 days, you can ask for work permit. And a lot of the times, judges stop those clock, and meaning they cannot ask for the work permit. And that also is another barrier for a lot of the immigrants who are coming to stay afloat during the time that they're preparing the paperwork for asking for asylum.
Could
So,
you could you tell us a little bit about what the criteria are to get asylum?
well, asylum is a legal term, right? So you have to be persecuted in your country for your, I don't remember all what it says, but it's religion, sexual orientation, um, ethnicity. There is a bunch of things, but you have to prove that you're being persecuted with that. And
So
sometimes
that would be like the police are attacking. Would they have to be police are attacking you or people like you? Do you know?
no, it has to be you. You have to prove that you were in danger.
Okay.
And that's the hard part of asylum. So without a lawyer, already like 70 some percent of or no more, like 80 some percent of asylum cases are denied.
Mm-hmm.
With a lawyer, that helps a little bit, but a lawyer costs over $10,000 during the procedure. So most of the people don't have the money to get a lawyer to defend their case, to
Mm-hmm.
prepare the case. You have to prove that you are in a list of the government that is persecuting you politically or otherwise for your gender, for all these things that are in the law that says that those are the only reasons for asylum. So now economic hardship is not a reason for asylum.
Mm-hmm.
Natural disaster is not a reason for asylum. So there are a lot of things that we think, oh, these people could come here and we will help them for asylum. No, those are not reasons for asylum. So it's very little the room that people have to get asylum, and it's not guaranteed.
And then when you said the judges cut off the 150 days, do they just cut it off that nobody can apply
No,
or
that is case by case.
okay, so is it like a deadline that if you don't do it if no, because it's after a
No,
hundred.
you have like a hearing with like the first or second hearing with a judge, and they are trying to help you find, for example, a lawyer. So we
Mhm.
have a case of one woman that she went and the lawyer told her, well, I'm putting a stop to your clock so that you can find a lawyer.
Oh, I see.
In
Okay.
theory, that looks great. Oh, she's giving her time to find a lawyer. The thing is that this woman is never going to find a lawyer if she doesn't find a job to be able to pay a lawyer, because it's not such a thing as pro bono lawyers for immigration.
Right.
So unless you're in removal procedures, and there are a couple of organizations that help with that, but they're not free lawyers, and it is hard for someone who doesn't have a job to find a lawyer to be able to represent her.
Or do you find $10,000?
Exactly.
And so they can't work for the first 150 days that they're here. Is that right?
They're not supposed to, no.
Okay. And then, so that was asylum seekers, and you
Mhm.
talked about refugees. What happens if they get denied asylum? Are they deported?
Yes, they will be automatically in deportation procedures.
Okay. And how long does asylum do asylum proceedings take to get the yes or no?
It will depend. I have cases of people that have been in the country for 20 years and the asylum has not been there yet, and they have not been in front of a judge to present the case. And I have people that have been here for a year and a half and are presenting next week.
Wow.
With the new administration, we had a meeting today, and the lawyer said that what we will be expected is that they will shorten the times where you will put your paperwork in for asylum, and then you will get to defend your case in less than 6 months. Now, that is not enough time to prepare a case, and probably not many lawyers would take your case because it's not enough time. So what the person said is that also they're trying for the people not to be able to get the employment authorization or apply for after the 150 days.
So then, who decides?
A
Is it
judge.
a judge? It's a
Yeah,
judge.
it's a judge.
How are they going to have enough judges to do all this?
I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know. There is a big backlog in asylum cases.
there is or isn't?
There is.
Okay, wow. I think I read recently that each immigration judge in Denver at least has 7,000 cases right now.
Wow.
And I
I'm
don't know
not
that they're
surprised.
all asylum cases, but that's a lot of cases, and each lawyer has over 1,000 cases.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
I have a
Um,
question in the chat. Kathy is asking, another Kathy, if one applies for asylum without a lawyer, does that postpone deportation?
You know, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not sure. I know that you are supposed to be, once you put your paperwork in for asylum, you are supposed to be protected. However, a lawyer told me last week that you're not protected. But normally you say once you put asylum, you don't have status, but you don't not have status. So you're like in limbo, waiting for having status, but you're not illegal. So it's weird. I think that you can get deported if you commit any type of crime, even if it's small. You can be deported. That's what I thought, that you cannot be deported. A lawyer told me that is not the truth. I have people that are in detention centers that have applied for asylum. So if you have a minor crime, like, I don't know, if you drive without a license, or if you have a car and you don't have plates in your car, things like that, even if you put in the asylum, you can get detained and deported.
So another question is, since it's almost impossible to obtain asylum status, do most immigrants just skip the process entirely?
No, I feel that a lot of immigrants just try to put the asylum in because that will give them time. So if you have, after 150 days, you have the opportunity to have employment authorization, they don't know how long it's going to take for your case to go through. So even if they deny your case, at least you will have time to work with employment authorization. So a lot of people do put the asylum in, also because for some people it's the only way to be legal in the country. There are people that don't have any path to be legal.
mhm. And then there's other things, and I don't want to get too into the weeds on legalities, but I know there's a lot of talk about temporary protected status. Tell me a little bit about that.
So that is, and again, I'm not a lawyer, so maybe some of the things that I'm saying here are technically not correct, but this is a status that the government, the president, give to some countries that are in hardship. So in this case, Honduras have one, Venezuela has one, and there are other a couple of other countries that have temporary status.
Right.
It gives you protection from deportation, and it gives you the opportunity to have a job authorization. And but it does not give you the possibility to be a resident. It's a temporary protection status. So it temporarily protects you from deportation, and you have to renew it every year. Depends on the country. Every several years, it depends. Each country has their own.
So then do you apply for that before you come to the country, or do you come
It,
to and get that?
no, they tell you, they give you. In the case of TPS, for example, for Venezuelans, it was people who enter the country between, I believe it's November 2023 and June 2024,
Okay.
I think,
So it's a time limit.
or June 2023, 2022. So it's a timeline that they give you.
Yeah.
And so if you enter between the dates that they tell you and you have all the paperwork they're asking, then you can apply for that. Now, not everybody has all the paperwork. I have a lot of clients that went through the border where ICE got them, and then ICE hold the passport or hold their paperwork and never gave the paperwork back. If you don't have a passport or an ID or something that identifies you, you cannot apply for TPS.
Okay. And then you've got other people that are just plain undocumented that you help as well, right?
Yeah, as I said, we don't ask for documentation. The
Right.
only time we ask for documentation is right now that we are creating a new department for helping people to get jobs. And for that, then they need to have job authorization. If not, it will be illegal for us to help them. But it's the only time when we ask for paperwork. So we don't really know if people are undocumented or not. Well, we do ask them, for example, for certain things, for Medicaid, and if they are not documented, they can't apply for any type of help for the government. So.
Okay, can you tell us a little about the help that the government does provide? The state government.
For
You know,
people that don't have status,
no, for people that come to your organization.
so there are not many. So it is hard to say
Yeah,
because there are not many things that immigrants could apply. Even if you are a legal immigrant and you have been in the country for a certain time, until you're a resident, there are certain things that you cannot apply for.
mhm,
Um, Then, so it depends of what. There are some funding that some cities have that do not require documentation, some
okay,
sort of helps. There is help that is not from the government, for example, food banks. The
right.
majority of the food banks don't ask for documentation. Um, so it depends of what people need, then we will find who is doing what to get them to the right place. Normally not the government.
So what's the biggest need that you see when people come into your organization? Say they're first here. Is it food, housing, shelter?
I think the most prominent need is housing.
Okay,
It is hard to maintain housing when you don't have a job authorization because then the job is not stable. So we
right.
have a lot of people that go to Home Depots and try to have like a day job, and that will help. But that sometimes is not enough to maintain an apartment, for example. So
Right.
housing, we have several clients are sleeping in the cars. And
Mm,
I'm not saying just adults, some are sleeping in the cars with kids. And that
okay.
is very hard to see. I'm starting
Yeah.
to see people that are hungry. We go to Costco and buy frozen foods because sometimes people are coming to do paperwork with us and they have their kids with them. we see that the kids are hungry, that maybe they have not been able to eat today, or so. There are not many shelters. The city of Denver had shelters last year. You all heard at the time when we were receiving all this influx of immigrants. The city had shelters, but right now all the shelters are closed. So there is a need for shelters for families. There are families that may stay in a shelter, for example, from the Salvation Army, but they can only stay 1 or 2 weeks. So that
And
is
then,
it's hard.
and so then
Say that again.
they get the car. I mean, it's like, I
Who-
mean, how do immigrants get the car to sleep in? I mean, where do
There are some people that are sleeping in cars from people they know that
Mhm,
let them the car to sleep. There are some people that have put priority to buy a car
mhm.
and then have that as a priority and not a shelter or so there are
Right.
people that were living in friend's house and then the friend said, okay, you can't stay here anymore. And
Mm,
then they needed to be in the cars, but. Mhm.
okay. And then what
Diane,
about how do you get the kids in school?
School, thank God, in the US is free. So everybody, as soon as they come to us, the first thing we ask is if the kids are registered in school. So if they are in a shelter, the shelter will help them to register kids in school.
Mhm,
And the schools are closest to the shelters. Um, then once they have a place to live, then they may need to move the kids to a different school. But hopefully all the kids should be registered in schools.
okay. I think Sean has a question,
uh,
or Jennifer's doing the
yeah,
questions.
Diana asks how people can get information on the job program that you're forming.
So we are right now on the pilot process of the program. We don't have funding for this program. So we are right now piloting with 10 people that came through our TPS program and now have job authorizations. What we're trying to do, and if any of you have a company, an organization that is willing to hire an immigrant, I'm interested in talking to you. So what we're trying to do is train the immigrants on how to work in the U.S., what are the laws and best practices, and then put them in contact directly with people that will hire them. And these are very entry-level jobs where English is or good level of English is not required.
Mhm.
And that is we're just starting. We are starting to contact employers this week.
Good. And then, like a lot, a lot of immigrants had education and professions in their home countries,
Yep.
and I'm not sure how much English language bars them from practicing here, but I think there's also professional qualifications that bar them from practicing here. Is that correct?
Yes, definitely. We had a lot of medical doctors, international trained medical doctors that are driving Ubers or judges. We had a person from Afghanistan that was a judge in Afghanistan, and here he is cleaning floors. Um, we have, especially the ones that were lawyers, is very hard because the you need to qualify, you need to redo your whole career. And that is the case in a lot of other professions. They are organizations that are helping with some of the licensure. Spring Institute has a program called Colorado Welcome Back that help medical doctors and healthcare professionals to get back into healthcare. But with the licensures is hard, and sometimes they, in the case of doctors, they need to do the residency again.
Hmm. So most of the jobs they can get are entry-level jobs.
It depends. They are definitely a lot of things that are not entry-level jobs, especially if you know the language, right? So if you did marketing, for example, and you know the language, it will be very easy for you, and you have job authorization, it will be easy for you to get into the marketing market again. It depends of what it is. If you're an engineer, maybe not so easy. So
Mm.
it will depend.
So then the language barrier is probably a big barrier for the children going to school as well.
The schools are doing a very good job on having, so that the children they learn English very quickly. So there are a lot of schools, especially the schools that had most of the immigrants coming and they're receiving those immigrants. They have like transitional classes where they have English as a second language, yeah, as a class probably for the first year until they speak the language, and then they can integrate into the rest of the classes. I know that that's the case, for example, for Aurora Central. They have in high school one class for newcomers.
Okay. And then I imagine it's difficult for parents to participate in the schooling for their children if they can't communicate with the teachers and the principal and things like that. How is that going for them?
So most of the schools add an interpreter. So you have a right to have an interpreter, and they have an interpreter line where you can connect in 100 and some languages. So especially if you have a parent-teaching conference and you need, for example, Somali, they will find an interpreter for you online that will be there with you, but on the phone when you have the parent-teaching conference.
That's good.
Yeah.
Um, can you tell us a little bit about some of the experiences some of your clients have had in Colorado since they came here? Like, what was their experience first coming here, and um, how does it change as they get further along in their stay here?
You know, it depends on how you come, right?
Mhm.
So if you have family members here or you have friends and you came to Colorado because you have someone here who's going to help you, that support system is definitely very important to navigate systems.
Mhm.
In the case of the influx of migrants that we saw, these people were put in buses. Once they were released from ICE in Texas, they were sent to Colorado with flip-flops, shorts, and a t-shirt and left in downtown Denver, not knowing anybody. Those are the hard cases. When you don't know the language, when you don't know anybody, you don't know what you're doing, you don't even know where Colorado is in the map, right? So you get here and you don't have that network of people that are going to help you to say, this is what you need to do first. This is how you put your kids to school. This is where you're going to live. So those are cases that are having a hard time because with the so big population that we receive, especially from Venezuela, um, it's been hard. It's been hard. Right now, there is starting to be a lot of xenophobia against Venezuelans with the bad publicity. So for them, they are people that are starting not to find jobs, even if they have a job authorization, because they're Venezuelans. And not only is that from the general population, but especially from the other Latino population because other immigrants are feeling like first they're feeling why when I came before you, why didn't anybody help me? Why is it that they are helping you? Why is it that the city of Denver put all this process together to help the Venezuelan immigrants and not the people from Honduras and from Mexico or from other countries that came before? That is one of the things. And the second thing is that a lot of immigrants are feeling that, oh, now with all the gangs and Venezuelans, the bad publicity of being gangsters, that is giving us immigrants a very bad name. So now everybody thinks that because I'm an immigrant, I'm also a bad person.
Mhm.
And I can tell, you can tell the hardship that Venezuelans are having from other immigrants.
Mhm.
There are some people, however, that have great experiences, right? So there are people I have several clients that families that they met through maybe cleaning their houses or have adopted them.
Mhm.
And then, they help them with processes. They help them to, oh, now I'm going to DMV. I don't know what to do. And they're like, okay, I go with you and make sure that everything goes smooth. There are also success cases.
Mhm.
Shauna Tracy has a good question for you. I'm gonna let her say it herself though, because it's a long one. Go for it, Shauna.
Hi, Diana. When I was at your panel at Rocky Mountain Welcome Center, I asked the immigrants that were present how they were feeling personally about the potential deportations. And their answer kind of surprised me at the time. They were pretty confident that they would not be part of that particular, I guess, first sweep. And also some of them commented that they would just go back to families in their home countries. And are they still feeling like that with the new administration being a little louder and bolder? Or, I mean, what are you hearing from your clients?
That's a good question. It's hard to say because so there are people that follow the news, right? And if you follow the news, they say what they're gonna do is deport anybody who is a criminal. If that is true, then most of the people are safe. However, I don't think that's gonna be the case. I think there's gonna be raids when there are gonna be people waiting for you when you leave your kids in school. The people that have not been here before, that is right now the majority of people that we see, but before meaning the previous administration from Trump, they feel okay. They think that that's not gonna affect them. The people that have been here longer are worried because they know what's coming. They suffer that themselves, and it is not knowing that if you're gonna bring your kid to school, that you're not gonna be detained and your kids are gonna be alone.
Yeah, and I want to say that Project 2025 explicitly states that, and I think news reports have stated this as well, that they plan to amend the policy that prohibits immigration authorities from entering schools, churches, and hospitals. And they're going to leave it up to the discretion of the officer. So that leaves us to another point, which is if they're afraid of being deported, they're not going to take their kids to school. They're not going to go to work, right? Um, and So what are the other things that they'll avoid? I guess they'll just stay in their houses.
You know, they can't because they have to leave somehow. They have to pay rent if not they're going to be evicted. So they do have to work and they do have to continue doing their day by day. So important is not to panic. I tell them just make sure that you know your rights. That make sure that you have a plan in place. That if the police or if ICE stops you, what is going to happen with your kids? Who is in charge of your kids? So that we don't want families to be separated and we don't want families to lose their kids, especially if their kids were born in the US.
Right. And that's another issue where there's talk of trying to eliminate birthright citizenship, which I believe is in the 14th Amendment. Um, but the other thing that I really hadn't thought of before is you might you need documents to be able to access your bank accounts to support your kids if you're deported and they're left here. You and There's a whole litany of documents you need just to plan for just in case, and you have to have a trusted person to take care of them.
Yeah.
Um, so could you talk
And
a
you
little
need
bit about some of that or
Yeah, so there are several organizations that are putting crisis plans in place. Those crisis plans is put all your paperwork in one place, make sure that someone has access to your bank account, someone you trust to be able to pay maybe for bond if you if you can get a bond, where the name of your lawyer, if you have a lawyer, if not, try to find someone who could help you if something happens, who is going to pick up your kids, and have something in writing to say who is in charge of your kids if something happens to you, especially if the kids are American citizens, because then may not be deportable. And it depends of what the new administration puts in place and how they put it in place. We ask people to have passwords of everything in one place that their kids know, but also know what to do if someone comes and knocks at your door. So don't let them in. They need paperwork to get in your house. Make sure that it's signed by a judge and not by someone from ICE. And how does that look like? And that is all in Know Your Rights. One of the things that also we learn as an organization is that there's a difference between public places and private places, and they cannot get in private places. So making sure that the organizations have those private places where people can get in, and we, like my office, get in my office, close the door. This is a private place. You're not allowed to come in.
And
And
any employer can set that up. And so
Yep.
that's good for citizens to know who are employers. And I just want to mention that the last meeting that we had, December 17th, after the meeting, a lot of us signed on to the coalition for the Colorado Immigrant Rights Coalition.
Perfect for
Know Your
the right.
training, and we'll put that on the website for people that are interested, because it's not only immigrants that need to know this, it's US citizens, so that they can intervene if they see something that's wrong. Or everyone should have on their phone the mobile justice app from the ACLU, which allows you to video any kind of situation that you happen to encounter. I lost my train of thought.
I have another
We were talking about the social justice app.
It's the mobile justice app from the ACLU.
Yeah.
And what it does, it sends your video immediately to the cloud. So if your phone gets taken, the video will stay on the cloud and you won't lose it. Jennifer, you have something else?
Yeah, I've got a couple questions here. If a family's told that they're going to be deported, who pays for the deportation and the flights? And then and then after you answer that, I'll have some more
I am
questions.
not so sure, but I think it's the payers, the tax payers are the ones who pay for that, because immigrants will not have the money to pay for that flight.
Yeah.
So, and that's, I think, one of the things that where the cost of massive deportation, and one of the critiques that I saw in the news was that the cost is very high and we don't have the money
Right,
for that.
right. Do you tell these people to be ready to be taken in an instant? Should they have bags packed, or is it?
Well, if you get deported, you get deported with what you have on. You're not going to have time to go home and pack. So even if you have a backpack in your car, they're not going to let you get in with your backpack, right? So yes, that could happen in an instant, and families need to have a plan for that, because the problem is their kids. The problem is what happened if you get hauled by ICE on your way to pick up your kids at school. You never got to school, the kids are there. Who's going to pick your kids up? You don't want your kids to end up in the system, because once you're deported, you're not going to be able to come back to be in front of a judge to ask for your kids. So that's why we need to have plans in place. We don't want the people to lose their kids.
Wow.
And there's been a statement made that they want families to have to make hard decisions, that they want them to choose to take their kids with them, even though they are US citizens.
Do they
The
get?
problem with that is, sorry, Jennifer, the problem
No,
with that is to have a plan and money for that. Because if your kids are American, you probably have to pay for the tickets to get the kids to wherever you're deported, and not necessarily you're going to be deported home. One of
Right.
the things that we're very worried about is with the Venezuelan population, because currently there is no relationship between the US and Venezuela. What that means is that they're not going to be able to send airplanes to Venezuela and deport people back home. They're probably going to deport people to a countries that lets them deport them, and that may be Mexico or Central America if the other countries let that happen. And then there is a lot of human trafficking. So because you're not going home, you're going to a place where you don't know anybody.
Right. Can you talk a little bit about what happens if you are detained? Do you know anything about conditions in the detention center?
It depends of each detention center. There is a
Well,
lot of
or-
detention centers that are private, and you're not necessarily going to end it up, if you are here, you're not necessarily going to end up being detained in Aurora. They can transport you and send you to another detention center in other places. So each detention center is different. I have heard good stories. I have one person that said they even have a cake for me in a birthday, and I was like, "You're kidding me! I don't believe that."
That's
But
at the private one in Aurora?
no, no, no,
Oh,
no. That was in I think that was in Arizona. But um I have heard horrible stories. I had people in detention centers where we had to get medical attention because they were not giving them medical attention, so we had to intervene and try to find who was in charge to be able to get the medical attention. Conditions are not good. There's a lot of discrimination. There is a lot of bad talking, a lot of fear. Um, I heard horrible stories about how they treat women from Haiti. Um,
and that's guards?
yes.
Like, okay.
And one of the things that I was surprised is that in women detention center, the guards are not necessarily women. So, but yeah, we don't have much access to it, and even the conditions at the detention center here in Aurora are not good.
Yeah, and Jason Crow is very active in trying to get access to the detention center, and he submitted a bipartisan bill in the last Congress to require detention centers to open up to, I think, Congress and require inspections and accountability.
Mhm.
And we
Especially
don't
with
know.
COVID and they were people that were sick and they were not getting any medical help.
Right. Um, and so if you get detained, can they send you to another state?
Yeah,
Or okay, so you don't have any idea where you might be.
you don't. Actually, when people are coming in the country and they are gotten by ICE, they divide women on one side, men on the other side. So women with children on one side, men on the other side. And you may enter through Texas and end up here in Aurora or end up in Arizona, or so you don't really know where you're going to be sent to.
And then how long do you stay in a detention center usually?
It depends. I had people that were there for 2, 3 weeks. I had people that were there for 3, 4 months, and then they were deported.
Okay. Um, okay, we're getting close to the end, but I wanted to ask you what can we do to help?
I think that you guys have touched. I think definitely know human stories, because there's a lot of people that they just know what they hear on the news, but they don't know any human stories. So when I tell people, for example, from refugee stories, and I said, hey, people are in a refugee camp, they brought to the US, and they are a resettlement agency is waiting for them, but that ticket is not free. That is a loan, and they have to pay that loan. people don't know that. People don't know that that as an immigrant, you don't have any type of help. People think that you totally get help for everything. No. And it's those, personal stories, hardships. I have a mother of four that the husband was deported. She was left here with her kids, and she's having a very hard time. How do you take kids to school, to 2 or 3 different schools at the same time when you don't even have a car? When
Right.
sometimes you don't have, she had to walk half an hour in winter to take her kids to school. And sometimes she didn't have money for the bus. So she will get in the bus and say through an app, it's like, hey, here, I don't have money really to go to the bus, but I need to get my kids to school. And some bus drivers will let her in, and some bus drivers say, no, you have to get out. And she will have to walk without proper jackets or anything, all the kids up to the school and then pick them up. And so how someone has 4 kids work without a car, by the time you get home, you have to go back and start picking up the kids.
Mhm.
So that there is a lot of stories that are human that really people don't know. Like one of her kids, for example, didn't have the kids were starting to say, oh, my leg hurts, my leg hurt. It was that the shoes were too small. And he didn't want to tell his mom that the shoes were too small because he knew that his mom didn't have money to buy new shoes.
Right.
And as a, I have kids, and when they tell me those stories, it almost make me cry. So I want people to, if you have the opportunity to do a Know Your Rights and attend the Know Your Rights, so you know specifically how to help people when the time comes. Be a good observer. When something happens, if you see a raid, put it, tape it, videotape it, take the names of, if you can, the faces of the ICE officers, the name of the ICE officers. That is important. If you can help people not get detained, in the Know Your Rights, they will tell you what are the things that you as a person can do. Yeah, the cards that have written, we will get some of the cards in English and in Spanish for the people to remember their rights. And we will definitely be given, we have a couple left at our office, and we will have some more to give away. So,
And I'll put the cards from the Immigrant Legal Resource Center on the website with the red cards. And I'd just like to ask you one more question. Why do you think they come here?
in the case of Venezuelans, that is my home country, is hunger, is very hardship. We know that the minimum wage and the average wage in Venezuela is right now $4 per month. An engineer that will make a lot of money will make maximum, I will say, $200. But food is as expensive as it is here. So for a family of 4, food will be around $350, being very, very conservative. And so I have professors, university, that they stabilize all the wages the same, all the public servants the same. So anybody makes, professors from universities and janitors and judges, and they make $4 a month. And with that, you definitely don't leave. And that's the pension that the elderly get, $4 a month. So I saw people eating from the garbage. And I'm not saying just one person, whole families eating from the garbage. So when I ask people, was it worth it? Because if you look at videos of what the people have to go through to get to the US, they have to go through the jungle in the Darien jungle that is between Colombia and Panama. And when I ask people, is it worth it to do all that and to get here, because a lot of the whole trip to get here is hard, not only because of the jungle, but because of the drug dealers and the human trafficking. Most of the women get raped, so it's horrible. And they all say, at least I am eating 1 or 2 meals here. In Venezuela, I was not. And that is the reality. It's very hard to hear. Now, if the government in Venezuela changes, and hopefully we are very hopeful that in January 10th, the government will change, then we will see also massive people coming back to the country, because there will be hopeful that now the economical hardship will be different, politically it will be different as well. So.
And when we were at your presentation, I know one person said that their baby was malnourished when they got here, and that was the reason that they left. And they also mentioned differences in the police and law enforcement. Could you say a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the problem with the police in Venezuela is because they also make the $4 a month, or let's say that they get bonuses and get a little bit more. The police are the same robbers, or the police is a problem. And that's why people, when I talk to the police here, I tell them, if a Venezuelan runs, it's not because they did something, it's because they're terrified of the police, because in Venezuela, the police is the problem. And the police are the ones that are, we had a lot of entrepreneurs that have their own companies and stores, and the police are the ones going every month and telling them, hey, you have to give me money. And a lot of them have to close their stores because they were giving everything that they were making to the police. And that is very common.
Mhm. Well, thank you very much, Diana. Do we have any other questions on the chat?
Kathy, a number of people want that Know Your Rights link.
Okay,
I'm trying to find it, but I'm not having a whole lot of success.
I'll send it out to the registrants.
Okay, we'll send
And
out that.
there's several organizations putting Know Your Rights. So CERC is one, the Quarrel Asylum Project, or it's another one. JAMLAC is another one, and those all organizations that have lawyers in their organizations are doing Know Your Rights.
Okay.
Diana,
Jennifer, anything else? Go ahead.
Diana, does your organization accept donations of any kind?
Sorry, those organization what? It got cut.
I'm sorry, does your organization accept donations of any kind?
Oh, definitely. If you want to donate to us, we have in our website, there is a link there to donate.
And I'll
Okay.
put the link to Diana's organization on the website as well.
Okay.
Diana, this has been really informative, and I think you've really made an impression on all of us who've listened to you. So thank you very much, and thank you for all you're doing for our immigrants, our new neighbors, and we hope to have you back sometime. So thank you very much for coming here.
Anytime. Thank you for the invitation, and I will let you know, keep you posted when you're right. It's definitely open to the public.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's really nice. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, you guys. Take care.
Bye-bye,
Bye,
everyone.
Diana.
Bye.